Let's do it.
I guess I'm not starting a meeting. It's a budget workshop. There's no meeting to be started. Nor the gavel. We have on the agenda today. I believe we did get through all the provider agencies last time, so we were right on schedule with unclassified, capital reserves, debt service, municipal broadband revenues. We also had an amended request come in from the Osboro preschool that I'd like to take up today. It's just a letter I haven't seen about the undesignated fund balance.
That was information from the auditor.
Yep.
that I-
Okay, so we have Fred, he listed Rogers on. Perhaps we ought to start with municipal broadband since Roger is here and not take up any more of his time than is necessary. I don't think we even need a motion. We're not in the meeting, so.
Where's municipal broadband?
That may not be on that stick.
It's a free flow. I've got a separate breakout for Osborne Municipal Broadband.
It's a separate one page. Let me see here if I can give you.
Is it? Well, I want to be able to get it up on the screen.
I don't think.
And so I'm looking on both of them, your friends.
Likely.
I have to go back and take those and save. It's not on there.
Okay, so can we do it without them?
Lauren should have hers. Roger has his.
And so I was like, I'm just gonna take it.
What's the increase? What increase? It looks to me, hey, Roger, welcome. I mean, it looks like.
Thank you.
Costs are down, revenue is up, town subsidy is down. It looks like good news.
Yeah, I think as we're now 5 years into operating this network, and we know a lot more about what's going on, and we'll continue to be able to tweak these numbers. We do have upwards of 710 subscribers right now, which is astounding based on what we thought it would be. And that helps because it raises the revenue. And I also think that we know a lot more about what the charges are for doing repairs, where in the past we were doing that out of a reserve fund and it was a little bit opaque. We now have a little more visibility on what the repairs are, both from a standpoint of how it's recorded in the town budget, but also we get detailed reports from GWI now that help us do that. So all in all, I think the news continues to be good.
Roger, are we still self-insured?
We are self-insured. We do have to carry a liability policy for our pole attachments. And I know that Vern has been in touch with MMA, because as more towns attempt to do this, MMA should really cover this kind of thing as part of their municipal package. But currently we have to carry a liability policy, but we have no hazard insurance anymore against damage.
Was the plan to put away a certain amount of money each year or build a fund?
Yes, and you'll see that reserve, $10,000 going into reserve this year. That is into the broadband reserve for unusually large repair expenses that might be incurred, or if we have to upgrade a piece of equipment or something like that. That's what the reserve is for.
Hey, Roger, one question that's sort of not budget related directly, but I think we've talked about in the past, potentially trying to sell our broadband to other nearby communities as a way to offset costs. Is that a reality? Is there any discussion about that? Is that
We haven't had any, this in the past 12 months, we have not had any discussions with the surrounding community to our communities to our east. That was a discussion that we had several years ago, but those towns have not made a lot of progress on their broadband projects. So we continue to be available because we do have this subsea fiber cable. And the distances to some of the islands to the east of us it's possible for, say, Stonington or those places to get their access through us. But that hasn't happened. I haven't had any conversations in the last 12 months.
I'm just curious, if that was a thing that was potentially ongoing, so, all right.
Roger, has the contract with GWI been worked out? Or whomever?
The contract with GWI goes into its 1-year auto renewal form as of November this year. The broadband committee is meeting in a week or so towards the end of the month to start the discussion about what our recommendations are to you as the select board for how to proceed, whether we go immediately to bid it out, or we put together. Vern has suggested that maybe we go to GWI with our demands and see whether they're willing to renegotiate the contract. We've been generally happy with their service, but there are some things that we should try to fix in the contract going forward.
Thank you.
Is there anything you want to highlight, Roger, in the budget, or before we have any more questions from the select board?
No, I think that this budget represents for me, the 5th year of tweaking as we get more and more experience. So the biggest risk here is that we have a large repair to do because of a storm. But we have a reserve to back up this budget going forward. So I think we're in good shape.
Great. Any questions for Roger before we move on?
No.
Hearing none. Roger, thank you very much for showing up.
Thanks, Roger.
Okay, I'll go back to cocktail time.
Oh, nice. I just want to mention that you probably have noticed this on your capital reserve, but in the broadband capital reserve, there's $74,631 in there.
And I
That 10 goes towards that.
I suspect there'll be a time where we'll max out what we want to have in reserve, in that reserve account, and then we'll just not fund that until we need to fund it.
Right, refund it.
Gabe, we're almost, I would say this is it. We don't need more than that.
That's even better. So perhaps next year, it seems hard to believe we could have more subscribers, but I guess as houses get built, we'll see what happens.
In fact, I would be comfortable because we haven't really tapped that reserve this year. Why don't you you could change the budget to only reserve 5 and make it an even 80, and then we'll see what happens going forward.
Okay, let's do that then. Thanks, Roger. So
Taking that to 80.
on that recommendation, we'll make that $5,000. I'll bring the capital reserve up to 80, and with any luck, we won't have to use it next year or anytime in the near future. So,
Right. Not more work.
yeah, exactly. All right, thanks again, Roger. Let's see, we've got, maybe the next thing that we should bring up is the additional request from the Islesboro Preschool. The Islesboro Preschool has asked for an additional $18,000 over what they've been funded for before, which was 75, and the purpose is to start providing health insurance to their full-time employees, and this is to the tune of $500 a month for their employees. I know that they have had turnover with staff both last year, this year, and that for some of the staff, part of the reason was lower pay and lower benefits. I understand that one of the staff members is going to the big school, as partly because the big school, I don't know.
Yeah.
If you have a kid in preschool, sometimes you call it the big school. That you have perhaps not the compensation package you need to attract and retain the kind of teachers that I think we want in our preschool. And so I think that this is reasonable. It's difficult with a preschool on an island like this because you have enrollment numbers that ebb and flow depending on the whim of the population in terms of how many kids you're going to have there. And I think that makes budgeting difficult when you don't have enough revenue coming in from students and daily fees for, because you don't have as many kids, but you still need to staff the people. So I think this is a good idea to help support the preschool. I'm hopeful that there will be more kids, more money coming in. I think they are discussing, ways to generate additional funds for the preschool, perhaps sliding scales depending on, you know, what folks can pay as a way to generate more money, but I think that it's a good idea. We spent a lot of time and energy making this preschool and making it viable. And I think that it's a good idea to support this. I'll open it up to comments and discussion about an additional request from the preschool for $18,000 specifically to fund health insurance for full-time teachers.
So they don't currently offer any health benefits,
No,
okay,
no health benefits currently.
and this still won't provide them with like, under the town's policies or anything like we're not absorbing them and
No, so this is, my understanding is this is money, though,
prison
so,
to help pay for their
They're-
offsite expense.
right, and I understand, I mean, just from reading this, I believe that if they have employees whose health insurance comes to more than $500 a month,
Right,
then their health insurance is going to be subsidized but not fully covered.
right,
Which is still a big benefit, depending, to the tune of $6,000 a year per salaried employee. And then, again, I don't necessarily know what they're planning on doing, but I would hope that if they're doing this, then the answer is they're offering the health insurance direct so that you get free tax withdrawals for your health insurance, which is going to make the health insurance cost a little bit less as you're not getting taxed on that amount, right? So there's, I don't know if that's the plan. I sort of suspect makes the most sense, at least to me, to do it that way. But this would be $6,000 a year in additional compensation for the teachers, the year-round teachers, and then I guess we'll see where this goes in terms of additional revenue for the preschool in whichever ways that they decide to do that, and what that leads to for the future for budget requests for the preschool. But I think that supporting them right now is a good idea so that we don't end up in a situation where we don't have any teachers in the preschool, and then potentially the option is paying more, getting more benefits without really a mechanism to cover that cost, and it's not, I don't know, I think it's a good idea.
right.
Well, basically two, it only adds 2.5% of the bottom line of the government section,
Yeah.
41, so. To give it some kind of a perspective, and put it to the whole budget, it's very small.
Yeah, the whole budget, I mean, I'm with you on that, Phil, and although I will say in the past, I've been, you know, that's true for lots of things in the budget, and the more we accept everything because it by itself doesn't change anything, the more we end up with a change that is meaningful. That's not what I think about this is, and I don't think that we're doing that generally. It is a worthwhile comparison to think about, but I just get concerned about thinking that a small increase here and there, it's easy to have that compound to a big increase. And that's not what's happening here, but just a thought for budgeting in general. So. Any thoughts on this? Any other discussion? Anybody who's opposed to this? Hearing none, let's make that change then, Jen. If there's no one opposed and we think it's a good idea, well, let's make that change. And if you could I guess Laura Graff was the one who contacted with the request, if you could let her know that change has been made.
That would go into effect July 1.
Yeah,
Not
they,
till then.
right, they won't have any additional money.
Right, they've already exhausted, I think, their money, I think the meeting,
63,000. Of
Yeah.
course, that was
that was.
a month. That was February.
So,
The only thing that I would ask is that when you put it in, could we do it as another line item? That way, if they're getting more full-time teachers or anything like that, we can actually watch where did that 18,000 go? And then as health insurance costs and stuff like that go up
sure.
for everybody else, then it's something that we could, like if they need $600 in a couple years or something like that, it's something that we can watch to make sure that they're still getting the equal.
I don't think there's any reason we can't have two line items that are paying the preschool, one for the teacher salary, which has existed for a while, and add another line item that is essentially the additional request here of $18,000 to track for future if we want to divide those or change those payment amounts.
Yeah.
Okay,
So they'll have to get, I guess that means they get two checks, or maybe not.
yeah, I don't wanna do that.
Write one check then.
Yeah, well,
As I say, you could do one check with two lines, it's just so that we can track it for the budget.
Right. That's what
I'm
they,
trying to think how I'll explain it to Laura when they do their billing. They struggle with their billing anyway. To
so
us.
this isn't a billing issue though. This is a
Well-
money in issue. They're gonna have to deal with their billing however they deal with it, but this is just the money that goes in their general account, I would think, to pay their stuff. And it's earmarked for,
And it might help promote for them to be able to do the direct withdrawal out for it.
Yeah.
You know, help encourage them to do it.
yeah,
tax
this,
free.
this money, I don't believe, they don't have like a joint account with the town, right? They're keeping their
They're
own accounts.
nothing to
totally
do with
separate.
us.
That's what I thought, right? So they're just gonna take this money, put it in their account and control it however they do.
We just pay them once a month until their 75,000 runs out and then.
You don't know.
they're around.
Okay,
They operate with budget, right?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Moving on from the preschool, we've got unclassified, we're on to 49 unclassified. Okay. Memorial Day, $600, cemeteries, yard maintenance, $8,000. Okay. Insurances. Oh, yeah, I forget, what is this? Is this FICA, are these for just town employees generally?
These are town, yes, the health center's FICA is in their budget. For their employees.
I'm not, I know, I think we've talked about this before, I'm not a fan of breaking out the cost of individual employees away from their line items generally. You know, it's easier to see what the cost of specific things are when they're all lumped together, because when we hire somebody, right, we have to pay things like FICA, that's, you can't, and workers' comp, and health insurance is sort of a different thing, which may be difficult, but it just seems like it's easier for me to follow the individual budgets when you have those things lumped in with the people, as opposed to as a separate thing for all people, when the FICA is directly related to, like, for example, paying one particular person, there's a percentage, right, that you have to pay. Workers' comp, you know, all those things. I don't know how we get beyond that. I suspect it would be a time-consuming task to try to break that out.
I think so. I mean, yeah, because I do, and I've given you wages, and it shows for the town's wages, what their FICA is and what their insurance and what their.
Oh, that's over there too?
Up under wages, this is where I have a separate, form.
Wages of all.
Way in the, oh, you don't have, way in the back, there should be something that says wages.
Yeah.
But I do have, but again, no, it's not broken out, like you said, by how much in general government is FICA and how much, I mean, it's never been broken down that way, it's just
Yeah, I know we
the
talked about it.
total.
And this doesn't break down the cost per employee, for example, by adding the relevant, like, taxes, insurance and stuff.
Well, if I'm looking at the health center one, that shows per person. And for the FICA, I guess I have it for the town, I just have a separate worksheet. What- I know I've given it to you guys.
Yeah, the FICA, the health center is there.
But for the health center, but, the town, I think I have a separate worksheet.
It just from my perspective, it seems like it's not unclassified, right? It's directly related to the people, that's all.
Yeah, but, yeah,
I don't know if anybody else has that issue, maybe it's just me, but I just.
Well, I agree. It's good.
Well, I don't think that it makes sense to try to do anything about it right now, with this year's budget. But I do think it's a good idea to move in the direction of capturing the actual cost for employees within the budgets of those particular, areas of the town. So that when you're looking at what it costs for a particular thing, it's not, it costs this, because that cost really includes all of the necessary taxes and insurance and stuff that we have to pay for that, so.  Insurances, Classified audit, 32,000. We do an audit every year, right? Every other
Correct.
year. Are we required to do an audit every year?
Yes. Yeah, we've been through that every year.
Like I said.
Per Title 38, Chapter Part 2, Chapter Subpart 9, Chapter 223, Subchapter Annual Post Audit Required.
Oh, yeah, you put it right there. I just, I think we asked that question before.
I don't think people have believed me, so I went to the source.
It's just a lot for a small town to pay 30 grand every
I
year
know.
for an audit that, on my review is. Yeah, they have some good suggestions from time. I'll leave it at that. Okay, insurances, like, town health insurance, wellness. Did anybody take advantage of the wellness?
Yeah, yeah. Not so much during, it kind of dropped off during COVID, but Owen is always, on there, and there have been, we tried to get firemen in there at the beginning, that's when it started for but yeah, people do.
Match, unemployment, cool. Any questions about anything?
And the airport's what?
Excuse me?
I said, what is the airport
It's the liability.
of
For the airport?
liability
Yeah.
policy?
Yeah.
Specifically for the airport?
Yes.
Where's the mowing contract with the airport?
That falls under,
Public Works?
Public Works. It's, I think it's Gill Regard. I can't remember if it's Gill's mowing, roadside mowing includes that. I think so.
Is it a separate item or is it just lumped in?
It's lumped into the mowing of the town roads, and we specify the airport.
How do people qualify for retirement?
How do they qualify?
Mhm.
If they have to be full-time employees,
Okay.
What does it mean to be a full-time employee here?
36 hours.
We,
Correct. And then it's 5% from the town. They don't have to do 5%. They could they could just do 2 to 3%, and then that's all that the town would match.
It's a match.
and when are they vested? After how many years?
Immediately. They're not here.
Really?
Yeah. There's never been a hold on retirement. Get it? If I had started my retirement in 1984,
You'd be done.
I wouldn't be here right now. No one brought it up, so I didn't think it would happen.
I
Hey,
can't afford to retire.
Phil, your clock is wrong again. No, I can't.
I just wanted to make that.
Can
in case
I
you were
ask,
thinking otherwise.
Yes, please.
on the wages, so I'm just sorry, I'm still on the retirement, but I see the Rs are next to people who I'm assuming is included in that $21,000, but there are some that look like they are budgeted at 40 hours that do not have an R next to them, so I didn't know if that was just
What section is
under
that?
wages.
Okay, I'm sorry.
The wages section.
Not everybody
All the way to the back.
wants it. It's
Oh,
not mandatory. These people have decided not to.
Oh,
okay.
all right, 'cause they'd
And
rather-
there's 2 this year that are new that are going to take it. Odessa and Brandy are new to it. And then Dave Dyer is new because he's new.
Is there a wait period before someone can use the retirement matching or the
Reuse it?
wait period? Like
Take
they have to
advantage?
work here for 3
No,
months before they,
didn't Phil just ask that question?
No, that was before they could cash out and run with it. is
Whether
what
it's
Phil was
vested.
asking.
Oh, cash out and run.
you can
No,
cash out
there's
as a
no
401k.
wait period.
There's either big penalties or
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, if they were here a year or so, they're not gonna have much to run anywhere with, but no, there is not. Never been a wait
But they can start
period.
from the first check.
And Carrie, I don't know if you were doing it?
I am trying to.
Okay.
I have had bad luck in signing up.
Oh, well, we'll talk about that. I will help you. but-
I
So
think
the
I
R
have it
means
sorted
what
out
again?
now.
Excuse me?
The R means what again?
Are,
The R.
they're participating with retirement.
They are.
Yeah.
it's just not a mandatory thing and
Correct.
they can choose to save the 5% of their salary
They can,
and keep it, or they can invest it in the retirement plan and get it matched by the town.
I remember that was the only thing Jeff Grossman really pushed. You're throwing, but back then it was 4%. This started out with 4%, and he got it up to 5%. But then he's telling everybody, you're losing 5%, but it all depends on the individual and their budgets and.
Anything else on unclassified? Miscellaneous, yeah. Are these capital reserve accounts? They are.
Yes, no, count 50.
Okay,
So I'm always surprised by this. These are expenses that are bank related expenses.
What are you looking at?
The expenses
Actual-
for the, like in red, the 22 cents or
Yes,
you think the bank would be paying us to have this kind of money, more than $1 million sitting in the bank? It strikes me as very unreasonable to pay anything when we could, for example, put it in the government savings bond and get 3% or something. I know it's different because you don't have access to it, but it just seems like this is charging anything for that kind of money in their bank seems unreasonable. To me,
Which line are we on this one?
we're on,
section 50. Cap reserve, oh, there you are. But what he's talking about is, capital reserve only.
Although these are invested funds, is that correct?
Yes, yeah.
This isn't just a,
oh, so this
This
is
isn't a checking
growing,
account,
this is
right?
growing
Right.
faster. So
Right.
this is the.
But we're
management
able to
piece.
withdraw. I mean, I don't know how many towns they do this for, the sub-accounting still, but it's probably very annoying to them.
I mean, do we have a breakout of how these funds are invested? Like, is there any kind of investment policy?
There is, I mean, quarterly they send, and I can give it to you if you want to see how they're,
Yeah, I just don't know if we had any
That's the
bounds
bar
on it
harbor
as far
thing,
as
right?
how,
It looks like we lost $12,000. Right?
it's about like my
not surprising.
retirement.
No, the
What'd you
market
say?
has not been great. So there's that side. It's the Bar Harbor.
Bar Harbor Bank, Bar Harbor, excuse me, now it's Bar Harbor Wealth Management, yeah.
so.
so from these items, like the solar on the salt building, there's 28,987 in capital reserves. And we're gonna buy them out for 34,000.
Because the
So the
total was,
difference is coming from taxpayers' money.
that should be enough. I mean, it was 62,000 to buy them out. And I thought I had calculated that 34,000 to go along with the money that's in there. Solar. So there's 28,987, you might as well say 29,000 in there.
The police,
5 each, 10,000 additional.
the police cruiser money just hasn't been spent yet, is that right?
Correct. We paid for the car, we've done a few things, but he's not done. There's still some things he's doing, so at that point, I was gonna take out all at one time instead of taking out 40,000 and 10,000 and which I would think in another month or so, that would be
So the 13,000 is just for the camera?
correct. Correct, and he was talking about putting in his budget, and I said, well, but then he didn't, so, I thought it's a chance to put it in here. And,
And then that's it, the car's ready to go.
correct.
Okay.
Correct,
So where are these numbers listed in the contribution line from last year?
are you looking at, what are you looking at, this
He's still on the Bar Harbor.
Contributions, that's what's gone in to date. So recently I put in that 285,000, that was this year's FY23's capital reserve
Right.
budget
Mhm.
that I just put in there.
What's the health center technology?
That was for, and I'm using some of that now for electronic health records or this billing system for the health center, electronic.
Okay.
Which,
That's separate from the health center endowment
yes,
funds. Okay,
yeah, the endowment. We are able to receive money from that once a year. And then I've got that budgeted under revenue. Can't go back at them and say, can we have more?
and the negative account, what's that about?
Is it a little bit over for,
It's like underdrawn by like $1,000, municipal building expansion.
yes, that might have had, I'd have to look back and see what that did have in it. It might have had 10,000 in it.
It looks like they paid us 22 cents to have a negative balance.
Thank you.
The math worked out well on that one.
Um, Yeah, I can't explain what that was. I mean, I'd have to go back and get the whole, I can look back and find out why, what the amount we had in there, then maybe the stocks went down and then that much money was not there when I took out.
So what, I mean, I understand that this will fluctuate depending on the size of the projects that we anticipate needing in the future, but I'm wondering, kind of how the 1.6 that we have in there now kind of compares historically to the highs and lows of what we've had in these accounts.
At one point, did we have 5 million in there?
Oh, I don't know about that. I mean,
Can we just get like a historical, a look back of like total capital reserve accounts for the last, I don't know how many years, few years?
Yeah.
Let's say 5 years. That should, I mean, I feel like that ought to be pretty easy to come by in terms of just like a spot. Same time every year for 5 years.
Yeah.
Right, and just the total, not broken down. I just wanted,
yeah, and it seems like it's always around. I don't remember, like, what did you say, Phil? You thought it was,
I thought it was the year that we had about 5 in there, 5 million.
I don't remember that, but that very well could be, but I can do that. I can get
It was a year in which we did $400,000 of road paving, and maybe more.
Well,
We've got 475.
We've got that right now.
Yeah, and it was a bigger project, I don't have the number.
Where's all the money sitting for the municipal building project for the donations?
in our bank, in the Canada National Bank.
Okay, it's not a capital reserve.
No. No.
Is there pages here? I only have one page in that section.
no,
That's it.
but
That's
there
it.
is,
Oh, for the
there is
budget?
a budget section too, that mine is right before.
So you're missing page
Perhaps it's here.
18, 19,
For capital reserve?
page 17. Is this what you're
17
missing?
was capital reserve.
Is that what you're missing? Or,
17, yeah, I got it. There it is. It's, it just wasn't in the thing. Okay. Okay, so money putting away is 20 Dark Harbor wastewater treatment. 10 municipal buildings, 34 buyout, solar town office, 34 buyout. That's nice. Being done with those projects and owning that, that sounds reasonable. Police cruiser, $13,000 is the additional money that we need to finish outfitting that cruiser.
that's for a camera. For the cruiser.
Public Works equipment repairs, $5,000. Health records, $40,000. 156, and that's no money for paving. But we did put a bunch of money in paving
Yeah,
last year,
yeah,
175,000 last year, and just,
476 in there right now. And that includes the 175 that we just put in.
We usually spend about 200 at a time, is that?
300. I mean, so you might want to, I didn't budget any in, Public Works, and I wasn't sure if you'd want to do it here instead, because we won't spend all that we have in here. So I wouldn't put it in the expense line. I'd rather put another 100 in here, or,
we gotta wait and see where we are with the budget. before
Yeah.
we Fund paving.
I'm just gonna highlight that section.
Something else I'm gonna kind of kick out there, and I don't know if it would go into public works equipment and repairs for capital reserve or back into public works. The transfer station, they were talking about the need for a small like Kubota tractor, that way we don't have to keep calling for Castilla or whatever to come over and crunch down everything. But that if they had their own tractor, that they would be able to move things around with. And so it's not something for next year, but it's something that if there's room to put in a couple grand in order to build up to get them a tractor, it's something that might be interesting and it'd be beneficial because then we're not paying for their service fees to come over. and-
They don't come out here just to push down the bin.
No, but then when he has to close them and stuff like that until he can get them emptied,
Oh,
he was thinking that, because especially in the summertime, with the frequency of, until he can get them either emptied or get them down here emptied and pushed down on the other ones, they're
yeah.
closed.
Well, I'm hoping
And
if
so-
we get together to work on the transfer station, and what I would like to see is demo bins
At the construction sites.
at
right.
construction sites, and that would help a lot. And if I can
That
get
would.
those gates up there so people can't, the trouble is the truckers or the workers, the contractors, they dump their loads in there. So they don't lay down
Right.
flat
Okay.
there, that's the trouble. Lots of things are sticking up, and that's what the, Casella doesn't like, because that's a bad load for them to try to
Okay.
take off, so. If they and people won't like that, hand unload their load, or trailer load or truckload, that won't make anybody happy either. But I think the bulk of the people are the contractors that go up there and.
It seems like requiring, demo bins or dumpsters at job sites over a certain threshold is not an unreasonable thing, especially for an
Right.
Yeah, I hope not, and it's probably gonna be an ordinance, has to go in the ordinance, but I don't think it can just be a selectmen's policy, yeah.
Right. We can bring the ordinance and then put it in as one of the planning board requirements also.
Yeah, so that's something we need to,
Yeah, no, I
Work on it.
completely spaced that part of it. and
well,
so when
me
I was
too,
talking to
there's
Joe-
been a million other things. But when they mention a tractor, I know Jordy, I know everybody would like a tractor. Sometimes I wish they did too, but that little skid steer, and they shouldn't be pushing it down with that either. I think if insurance ever saw them, we'd be blackballed.
Right,
So I'm trying to get some gates up there or rails that they really couldn't do that
okay.
also. But they're supposed to be for safety that people don't fall in.
They need an excavator.
In the perfect world, they would love it. And then you'd never see them. They'd be out in the excavator excavating.
I said I would
The
bring it
demo
up,
bins will be
so.
pushed down though.
There would always be room and it would be closed.
Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah.
They'll be happy.
Well, let's continue that conversation, I guess, when we go through, or do you want to put something, is there,
We currently have a transfer station line that has
In capital fund?
9,600.
$9,600?
But I admit, I have looked at tractors and thinking and wondering, I mean, I don't see them as taking on road work, and I can tell that's what they would like to do. You're not gonna go ditching, you're not gonna put culverts in, you're not going to
We're not buying.
leave the transfer
No,
station.
they would stay up there, chained to Jeff probably.
$10,000, I think, would be something that would pitch the roads,
Right.
that's for sure.
No,
No, I'm okay with waiting until next year for it to see, because I do think that we're gonna move forward with the ordinance for the
Yeah.
construction bins and stuff like that, and let's see if that makes an impact the way that we're planning for it to. And if not, then it might be something that we have to revisit.
And they complain about that skid steer, and I've talked to Clifford, because he said sometimes it's how the drivers drive it.
Right.
I thought it was on death's door, that's what I meant. It's
Right.
not.
Okay.
But anyway,
Any other thoughts on capital reserves, changes, recommendations before we continue?
I may want to add something for the sea level rise, section. I'm kind of thinking that it would be good to have kind of 200 in there as a cap as we're starting to look for things, but I would, maybe put in 20 or something this year to continue to add to it.
Well, let's write in 20 right now, I think, and then we'll.
But yeah, I wanna wait until, and then we can look at. When we do the budget review and see what it looks like.
Sounds good. Moving on, we got IMB. We're on to revenues. Good time to shine. I'm not bringing that stuff up here.
You're not bringing that stuff up yet because I have to strangle the rabbit.
So we're not gonna do a deep dive into revenues right now, but we are gonna look at them. We've
I
got-
can do, it was basically, I recommend 15% across the board for everything that has to do with, building codes, transport station. The big ones that I did was like the trash fees,
Mhm.
how much it costs to send off to put in and everything. And it was, I think I came up with 15% just on the basis of continuity across the board. But that did not put us over what any of our surrounding areas even charged.
Mhm.
And so, but it brought it up a considerable amount. And then also, like we were talking about with the required, construction demos and different things like that, and charge a fee for them to have them and make them mandatory for them to have them, was my suggestion.
and that's on them, that would be nothing for us, so we would lose revenue if they weren't bringing it up there, but it
I
would
don't
be.
think that's true. I think.
Well,
it's
no, because you would lose some, but we wouldn't be sending off so often, I mean, the
Right.
expenses would drop.
Yeah, you'd lose revenue, but the expenses would drop.
I'd be very happy
I suspect.
to lose the trips.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, do we have a sense for how much we're making or how much it costs and versus how much we're making per demo bin?
So demo,
It's hard to say, because there's many dumps,
I couldn't break it out between like construction and contractors,
no.
Versus-
so-
personal use or like home clean outs. Different things like that, because it's not, he doesn't rate them that way. It's basically if you're hand throwing everything into a dumpster that's not in a blue bag, it's one fee versus using the other part. And so,
it looks like there's a
or hazardous and
Yeah.
hazardous waste.
big range for waste removal. The actual amount generated in 23 is 55. The actual amount in 23 year to date is 35 and change, so we've got some March, we got April, May, June, we got 3 more months, so we're looking, I'm sure, getting up into the 40s, if not 50,000, so we might be generating 50 a year. Right now, we're budgeting 36. If we raise everything 15%, right, we're getting, if it's assuming 50,000, we're getting $7,500 more,
Right,
which is good. I think we can go back and look at what it costs for waste removal, but my recollection is that it's
it was
higher than that.
Yeah.
150.
150, yeah, so if we'll be covering a third of the cost of dealing with our waste, which is.
not ideal, but if we are taking it off less often with the contractors and stuff like that, it should come down.
Yeah, we should have less expense. But I guess we really need to understand how Casella charges for those things, because if they continue to come at the same rate and they continue to charge at the same rate, then, and we're not generating the revenue because we're pushing contractors to their own bins, then we're gonna be paying the same and not generating the same revenue, which is not great.
Right,
But,
They only come when we call them, when the bin is full.
oh, they don't do it on the schedule?
No.
which is helpful.
I mean, they could have a week up there where no one dumps anything, so it's when it's full.
How do they decide how much to charge us? Is it by the number
By
of
the
trips?
weight, they take it off when they go,
Oh, they
they
weigh it.
weigh it.
Ah,
And if there's metal, we do receive some money from metal sales. I mean,
that'll
it's
save us.
not even,
Yeah,
well, from
for
the
recycling
metal
and
goods,
reclaim.
Yeah.
Which I did not look into at all, because I decided that that was just.
like
not
components. So
what I
when
was
they
getting
take that off the invoice, we don't receive a check for that, they reduce the invoice, there's
Gotcha.
a minus, so.
So it does seem like that's a good direction to head. Demo bins will be changed less frequently, we'll have less pounds, less cost. And to the extent that we lose some of the revenue associated with that, it seems like we're already operating at quite a deficit that we've got to be saving money the less we do, since we're losing money every time we send something off, so. There's that.
Yeah, that was how come I was unable to gauge, like, okay, well, if it's gonna cost us $1,000 a week, then this is what it was, and that's what I thought it was when I agreed to look at this, and then it was not that, and it was like, oh, fun. So I got a little lost.
So the only other thing, we're not gonna tackle the health center and reimbursement and charges for the health center. I don't know that that's even in the purview of the select board, but it does seem like that's another. The health center,
Yeah, I mean, asking budget more,
no,
or trying to make sure it increases. That's what I mean, when you say the
Yeah.
purview.
well, I just mean, so someone has to decide what the health center charges for X, Y, and Z.
Right, yeah.
And I don't
that's
know that that's the select. board.
Providers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But there ought to be, and I know that Dory mentioned this, looking at the way that the health center bills and codes in a way that maximizes what insurance both covers and
Correct.
reimburses for. And she said that that was a known thing, that there are folks out there who do that. And so the health center really ought to be thinking, especially as we move into a new facility, new software, about how the rest of the world works in terms of getting reimbursed from insurance companies, like from Medicare.
right, and that's the whole thing that Brandy's going through right now, and that's a consultant we will have to hire with someone who, because you have to find someone who works with rural health centers, it's different, the coding, they can't do everything, so that the codings are just,
And this is gonna be
Crazy
part of the
complicated.
Azalea stuff too, right?
Yeah.
Is making sure that everything is.
yeah,
plugged
so
in.
she's just,
That'd be
yeah,
great.
in the beginning stages of that, but I look it's time to see how things have progressed. And if they do, decide to raise rates, which they always want to, and I think the fear always was if it's too high, but that may not be the case anymore. If it's too high, people aren't gonna go. They're not gonna come in.
That's the only drawback.
And that's same for the ambulance. It always was that way, the
Yeah.
ferries or this or that. And
People panicked as they're going on an off-schedule ferry.
It's a great thing having affordable healthcare, but I think we need to focus on where we can recoup money and not alienate folks who need healthcare, who can't afford healthcare.
Where it's available. for
And there are
insurance
sliding,
companies.
there's a
Yes,
sliding
exactly.
scale, but people, I think in my time, I think I've had 2 or 3 people don't wanna,
That's a problem, for sure.
it's
Yeah.
like, I can help you, but.
You can see that, it's a problem that, hopefully someone, I'm not clear it can be easily addressed, in fact, I'm sure it can't be easily addressed. But, it seems like a goal to work towards.
And if you're looking at the health center revenues there on this page 1 of the revenues, I just looked at yesterday's date, amounts, and it's, the health center is up to, it's 127,852 from probably back in February, might have been early February when this, budget was run, so it said 87, now it's up to 127.
Wonder why, so is it just like?
That's just more money has come in.
Just waiting for the checks to hit the,
I guess. Rhonda's been finishing up some billing to go through when she kind of stopped and did her thing. Then Brandy took over and is doing new billing or so, but I'm much happier. That's why I went back up. I feel comfortable budgeting 150,000 going forward instead of last year I budgeted 130 because I was kind of concerned about the year before. And some of that money, the year before probably was CARES Act money.
Right.
Like that.
okay.
I don't know if there is a revenue sheet to show it, but for when it comes to like the town parking passes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We were gonna go through, last year we were talking about it with like how much we charge for, what, $2 for the parking pass, but it costs $4 to print them.
Right.
Kind of thing, and so my recommendation on that one was 15% across the board for it.
Did you get a
Also, like,
revenue,
Move it in and do a full sweep.
do you have a revenue packet?
Mm-mm.
What'd you do with your stuff?
My rabbit ate it.
Oh, right.
I don't
I
have
was
it
not
on
getting
this
it
either, do I?
It just really feels like the dog ate my homework, you know?
Yeah.
I'm bringing Alex next Wednesday, anyways, and I'll tell her not how to do York.
I'm not doubting, it just feels like that.
Right, no,
That's all.
I almost brought the two sides of it too, that would be like, so legitimately, this is what happened.
So when you're talking about 15% for those parking passes, that's only
It's like,
$2.
yes, it's not much,
I would
but I
take
didn't,
it up to 3, I wouldn't, or
Kill
4.
them, please.
Yeah.
How about,
because that was gonna be,
how about $10?
I would think that that is reasonable.
Oh, it's reasonable.
Yeah, because it's for an entire
We'll see
season.
how many that we sell. Yeah.
Right, and then we'll see how many
Yeah.
print tickets.
And then
Tickets
are
is-
you talking about the non-resident? So that's resident you're talking about. For the non-resident ones, which are $10 now, I believe.
So let's take it to 5 and 10.
10 to 20. I mean, we're talking, this is like so low compared, this is like so inexpensive.
Right, and I didn't look at what like the parking passes at Lincolnville or any of that was. I know that the ferry over on the other side, the school pays over $350.
Say 360, yeah.
But a day ticket is what,
$10.
$10
Ten,
in Lincolnville? So you want those to go up to 10 for a resident and 20 for the non-resident? How about the commercial? Cause there's a lot of commercial down there.
How many commercial passes do you sell?
I'd have to pull the book out, but they're 150 for the first one for the resident, and I think is it 175 for the second?
Yeah, I think you
There's
can only
two.
get 2.
There's 2, you can only get 2.
There is some point in it. Say whatever.
Yeah, and I don't know why that was ever set up that way, but that's what it is. And commercial off island they only can have one, and I think it's 350. It's a lot more.
Does anybody buy the off-island commercial?
There have
passes?
been, yeah. I'd have to look through their book. Tina's got that book up front.
Wait, so they could park on the other side? Is that what's an off island? Oh, you mean for the people that are coming over?
They're
that
Yeah,
get stuck over
to
there.
stay down,
Gotcha, right,
not up around the corner, you know, if they want to
Right.
be down.
Boy, they can put a lot of trucks up there
Yes.
and get very creative.
Yeah.
I swear there's not land where some of those trucks park.
But parking in general, so we'll look at that.
Yeah, let's get that for next time.
What is a non-resident?
people who don't live here.
They're not on
Renters
the
might
voter,
come.
not on the voting rules, contractors probably.
Well,
Well, not everybody's on the voting roll.
no, it's not that.
It's not that.
There could be renters here in the summer and they just want to leave their car. I mean, people from the other islands are not charged. They're free. They're allowed to park down there.
Where are the islands?
Acre Island.
Oh, okay.
Spruce
So I
Island.
was thinking like North Haven, Bound House.
Yeah.
Right.
They're
I was
allowed
like, oh, okay.
to get their little park down there so they can get to their island.
That makes more sense.
To get out there.
I got thinking about, when do those people come here? Not to-
So what is general government revenue?
It's a variety of anything that comes in that we sell, or there may be odds and ends of, checks that come in from the state, say, maybe for, for instance, just the other day, we got money back from some grant. It might have been snowmobile grant or anything that we don't budget for. It falls under general government.
It's not revenue, it might be a reimbursement from.
It could be a
somewhere else.
reimbursement, but when in doubt, put it there.
But you don't know what and how much and when.
And planning board fees, we expect to go up by 15%. Or $600. I mean, this is
Yes.
not big money, it's just.
Right.
just-
Yeah.
Plumbing permits.
I think those are set by the state. Hunting fees, those are all set by the state, town fees. State park, that's the amount of money, and that varies each year, what we might receive, I guess it depends on how much the park is used.
And the fund balance transfer, is our target to sort of try to leave around $500,000 in that account?
You should have 2 months worth of expenses in there,
Okay.
that's what the auditor said.
And that's basically just a cash account, that's,
Yeah, I mean, it's not in any capital reserve, it's not stored anywhere.
It's
Then,
just extra money in the account.
but it's set aside, yeah, it's not that we can, except for we have to transfer it out if we're able to, like this year, I'm gonna, and you may decide not to take out 200,000, but.
And just to think about the mechanics of how the town money works, right? We don't have lots and lots of small accounts. This is internal accounting, and we've got a big account that has a bunch of money.
Right.
Is it FDI assured?
Up to, well, we're way over
250.
250,000.
Yeah, so it's like,
Careful when you bank with it, it seems like.
yeah.
I mean, I hate to even say that that is a real concern, but here we are. Maybe the town might be thinking about doing something about that. What do you do? Lots of bank accounts.
Many banks, different banks.
Exactly. I mean, how much money does the town have in its account, generally speaking? What's the bottom line dollars for the town's account?
Bottom
Yeah,
line,
but how much are we talking totals in sitting in the account?
oh, a couple million anyway, I mean, maybe closer to 3, because a 1.5 million almost is from the municipal building donations.
So we would have to-
It's close to 3. Probably.
Does Lauren have a copy of the revenues? She's saying that she doesn't have a copy and she can't hear very well.
sorry, Lauren.
Let me, if I can leave, I'll go and email
Is
it.
Canada National who we have?
Yes. Lauren, I'm gonna email it to you.
I suspect. That's a lot of exposure when you talk about a bank failing to almost $3 million of 2.75 million of uninsured funds.
Yeah.
It's
As long as Biden's there.
I think that she left.
He left.
the Lauren left.
Yep.
Hi, Lauren. Jennifer's still there.
That might be Lauren in disguise.
No, Lauren was,
I think it might be, it could be a different Jennifer.
Oh, that's true too. That's true. I don't know. That possibility didn't come to me, but that certainly does. seem like a possibility.
That shade's quick.
Hangar fees.
hi. You wanna come in?
Is, hangar fees, Janet, the individuals own the airplane hangars. They build them and they own them.
And they lease the land from us. So we get
That seems,
650 or 700, whatever it started at, it's gone up a percentage each year, and Vern calculated that percentage, but that, yeah.
it does seem like that is very inexpensive to have a private hangar at the airport.
And they get taxed on their hangar, personal property.
On the square footage of the hangar. I think it's, I respect not much.
But yeah, I know it's. But what we go through to get that money, and it's. Could be more.
That could be part of the conversation about what reason.
How many
And-
hangers do we have out there? 3?
Only 2. Someone wanted one, so that third guy, they never materialized. And I also just wanted to say, if you're looking at public works and you went by auto excise as of a couple of days ago, it's up to 143,000.
I mean,
It's 112. But we just need people to buy new cars, for one thing, that's big.
Well, this is, well, I mean, so last year it was almost 200,000.
And this one probably will be by June 30.
I think we ought to increase that revenue to 175. It still gives us a
Can,
cushion
you,
and it will offset, will be. Anything else?
I wanna ask if Warren, you got that? I did email.
See, left.
You just got mad.
So I don't think I would be in favor of changing all the numbers, even in anticipation of raising things for fees. I prefer for other things, I guess, just to let the year ride out and see where we
Right,
are
and
next
see if
year.
it raises.
And if we get a more undesignated funds next year from additional revenue, we can always offset next year's budget. Okay.
Yeah, cause I wouldn't even even wanna guesstimate what it would be and then have it come up short.
Yeah, it's always better, well, it's not always better to really under, but I always like to make what I budgeted, and then on top of that is like the gravy,
Right.
it's nice, sometimes it happens.
Yeah, it's a fine line between over budgeting and overtaxing and then offsetting. And
Yeah, I learned that
And
the
having a
first
cushion.
year I was working on someone else's budget and they had over budgeted revenues and like, what did you think, you know, like,
well, I mean, I am generally, I think, in favor of over budgeting, under budgeting revenue with the anticipation that you have the money to pay for the stuff you need. And if those things don't hit the target, you are using that money to offset the following year. So you don't have that budget hit, you're continuing using the undesignated fund balance to give you a buffer. So you have the money for, whatever can come up, because it's hard to budget for everything. And then offset, right? To keep the budget essentially lower. Yeah, exactly. There's just stuff that could happen. Anything else on revenues? What's that? Anything else on revenues? That's it. Okay.
No, I'm good.
No more comments. Meeting adjourned. We will reconvene next week to do a full budget review. We'll take up things like sea level rise, capital reserve, paving, anything else anybody wants to bring to the table.
Should we anticipate that this room will be packed with people from that time?
No, nobody shows up, generally speaking.
Well, I was just saying.
Where? And a lot of, much like over budgeting, you can anticipate.
Yeah.
But you might not hit those eventualities,
Right.
just not.
I just want to let you know, I'm gonna move that $50 for the YMCA. We talked about paying for it out of their budget. But, Tina called somebody and they had forgotten to get it to us, so I'm gonna put it back in the provider, so it just,
Thank you.
it's easier to follow it than in the budget line.
$15.
50, 50, which is not,
Well, it seems like a good thing for the towns to support it. We've got
Yeah.
programs that go to the.
and kids go there.
We've got youth swimming classes right now, and we've got stuff. It's just nice. that-
We're getting ready to dump a whole adventure camp on it once a week, so.
I see enough.
I suspect the adventure camp pays them something, right?
Yeah, probably.
But still, it's nice to have a town, even if it's a token, it's a token of, of approval and thanks for.
Yeah, they got, if when
And
someone out here has a
support.
pool, it'd be nice if someone had a pool out there and take them like, what?
I know that during COVID.
Who's gonna swim
they
in the
would have
pool in
middle school
December?
Basketball games there, and they would get,
An indoor
they would
pool.
put out
Correct.
an all-call for kids
Indoor
between
pool.
5th grade and 8th grade to come in and play us, because nobody was playing. And so since we were a little more lax and like, hey, we're game, we'll play in masks, we'll do everything, they never charged